So I guess you could do whatever you want to do if you're on one side of the aisle. How's everybody doing? My name is Anthony Brian Logan, and today we got to talk about the White House press secretary allegedly violating the Hatch Act. Now, what the Hatch Act is, and I'm paraphrasing, if I get anything wrong, y'all please correct me in the comments below. But the Hatch Act bars civil employees of the federal government and the executive branch from involving themselves in certain political things, meaning you can't be recommending people to vote for during a primary or before a general election or something like that. So let's say you're Karine Jean-Pierre, you can't go in front of the podium and say, hey, vote for him, vote for them, don't vote for them, don't vote for them. You can't do that. That violates the Hatch Act. But yet and still, you're Karine Jean-Pierre, you're Jen Psaki, a lot of these people have done it with no consequence. Now, didn't we just see somebody allegedly do something and there's all kind of clamoring for consequences when it comes to what they allegedly did, but people like Karine Jean-Pierre and others who do the alleged thing on camera in front of the whole world, there's nothing there? It's to the point where even a nonpartisan watchdog group says, hey, you're doing wrong. There should be some kind of consequence or something. Now, before I go any further, let's roll the clip. If you want to see the clip in full without my commentary, link, as always, will be in the description. If you're on IG, visit a link in the bio. Go to the corresponding article on the website. But without further ado, let's go ahead and roll it.
A government watchdog is accusing White House Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre of violating the Hatch Act by repeatedly calling out MAGA Republicans ahead of the 2022 midterm elections.
Unfortunately, we have seen MAGA Republican officials who don't believe in the rule of law. They refuse to accept the results of free and fair elections.
Oh, the irony.
MAGA Republicans. I want to talk a little bit more about that because that's a very specific thing. We got to get into it. There's a lot of psychology behind that.
Since Jean-Pierre has repeatedly cited the act to avoid answering questions.
The Hatch Act, I am covered on the Hatch Act. So look, I need to be careful. The Hatch Act, I'm covered by the Hatch Act. I am covered by the Hatch Act, which I'm happy to say over and over again because we believe in the rule of law here. I'm going to be very careful from here, as you know, because we are covered by the Hatch Act, and I'm not going to speak further to his process because we are covered by the Hatch Act, so I'm not going to speak to politics. As you know,
Yeah, that's her favorite line, ain't it? Yo, it's the Hatch Act, man. We can't say too much. She get asked a direct question about what Joe Biden's doing, what he's planning on doing, where he is, and why he's not talking to the media, and what he plans on doing next. Hey, you know, Hatch Act, I can't say too much, so my hands are tied when it comes to that. You get the general idea. I will link to this particular video in the description, but that's the general idea. Now, before we get into the article right here, you see where the headline leads us. White House Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre violated the Hatch Act. Watchdog agency says. Before we even get into that, here's one thing I want to say. The term MAGA Republicans, this is a thing that's not done for the people that are out there in the audience, not for the reporters specifically. It is not just a phrase that she wants to use herself. It is for you, the viewer, for the American people. It's for you because she wants to brainwash you, not just her, but many others. Joe Biden will say the same thing. A lot of your House rep senators on the left will say the same thing. Maybe even someone on the right will say the same thing. MAGA Republicans, meaning, hey, you're a Trump supporter and you're seen as violent and insurrectionist or whatever. If you were out there on January 6th, you are a MAGA Republican. You are the enemy. It's a classic divide and conquer strategy that's worked since the dawn of man. That's what's going on. And they're using the term MAGA because, you know, people can understand that. It's not a complicated word. This is why when you're talking about the trans community, they say things like top surgery and bottom surgery. Although top surgery is really a double mastectomy, that's too complicated of a thing for the average person, especially children, to understand. But I digress. Let's get into the article right here. And let's see what they say, if we can just glean more from that. White House Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre violated the federal Hatch Act during the lead up to the 2022 midterm elections when She repeatedly warned of, quote, MAGA Republicans, according to a government watchdog agency. The U.S. Office of Special Counsel found Jean-Pierre's use of the phrase during the press briefings last year violated the Hatch Act, which prohibits federal employees from using their title to engage in political activity to interfere with the results of an election. So exactly, if she's at the podium as the White House press secretary and she's saying things that could interfere with the election, any kind of political activity like that, you can't do that. Now, I suppose if she's in her off time doing something else, not as the White House press secretary and not using that title, then it's something different. But in that setting, especially, you can't do that. But again, if you're on the left, you could do whatever you want to do. If you're on the right, well, hey, man, penitentiary time for you. That's kind of how it is. Shout out to the deep state. Anyway, Anna Galindo Marone, who heads the Hatch Act unit of the Office of Special Counsel, wrote in a June 7th letter that although Jean-Pierre never expressly instructed viewers to vote for or against Republican candidates, the agency concluded the timing, frequency, and content of Ms. Jean-Pierre's references to MAGA Republicans proved the references were to generate opposition to Republicans. Quote, accordingly, making the references constituted political activity, Galindo Marone wrote in the letter, which was addressed to protect the public's trust, a conservative watchdog group that filed a Hatch Act complaint against Jean-Pierre. Okay, so a conservative group, they're the ones that said, okay, this is a problem. Let's go ahead and file a complaint. And then they got word back from the group because they looked into it. They investigated, and that's what they found. All right. And by the way, if you don't know, Karine Jean-Pierre is married to or in a quote-unquote civil partnership, something like that, with Suzanne Marveau of CNN. Fun fact, but I digress. Hey, the French and the Haitians got back together. Anyway, I'll move on. The federal watchdog agency closed the case without taking any disciplinary action, arguing the White House legal counsel's office did not believe Jean-Pierre's remarks violated the Hatch Act and that it was unclear whether the Office of Special Counsel's contrary position was ever conveyed to Jean-Pierre. Oh, that's weird. So, I mean, and what can they really do? What can the watchdog agency even do? So they said that she did violate it, but there's no there's no penalty. Again, this reminds me of what happened to Hillary Clinton when your man Jim Comey came out and said, well, look, yeah, she did do some things, but we're not going to pursue any legal action because no reasonable prosecution would bring a case against her. So, again, you're on the left, do whatever. You're on the right, hey, man, big rocks, little rocks. Quote, we have advised Ms. Jean-Pierre that she should, again, engage in prohibited political activity. OSC would consider it a knowing and willful violation of the law that could result in OSC pursuing disciplinary action, Galindo Marone said in a letter. But I thought ignorance is no excuse for the law. It doesn't matter. You can't go to court and be like, oh, I didn't know I couldn't smoke crack in the hotel room, sir. I didn't know I couldn't do that. Why am I in jail? Ignorance is no excuse for the law, but they're basically giving her the excuse of ignorance. Well, I didn't really know I was violating the Hatch Act. So they gave her a warning. Hey, you know better now. Slap on the wrist. Ironically, Jean-Pierre regularly cites the Hatch Act as a reason to not to engage on questions from reporters, particularly questions that pertain to former President Donald Trump, who was running for president in 2024. Exactly. So you cite the Hatch Act every other day, but you don't know how to not violate it. You say, oh, I can't talk about that as violating the Hatch Act. But then when you do violate it, oh, I didn't know I couldn't violate it. Complete BS. Complete BS. But as I close, I want to say this. This is our federal government, and people, you know, they vote in it. If you ask me, I think the federal government at a certain point should be dismantled. And when I'm talking about dismantle, I don't mean any kind of insurrectionist activity, YouTube trolls and haters and flaggers. It's not even about that. It's about the government's gotten way too big. It shouldn't be this big. We shouldn't be spending this much time talking about it, quite frankly. We should spend more time focusing on our state governments. The United States was not meant to be this thing that was controlled from Washington, D.C. wholly. It's supposed to be each state is like its own country, like the European Union. That's what it was supposed to be from the beginning. But obviously, it's not that way. We are more controlled by the federal government than we should be. We should have fewer government employees at the federal level and less control from the federal level. They should handle things like national security, which is kind of a dumpster fire right now. We got a wide open border. We're dealing with foreign wars we shouldn't really be involved in. That's kind of a dumpster fire. But we should be involved with foreign relations and energy and food and water and things that the country is going to need handled at the federal level. Not to be dealing with stuff like, you know, social, small issues, small political races and podunk nowhere. That should not be up under the purview of the federales. It shouldn't. But I think I'll leave that right there for now. And what say you? How do you feel about what's going on here with Karine Jean-Pierre and the MAGA Republicans term and the Hatch Act? Did she violate it? Should there be a penalty? Why is there not a penalty for what she does, or a penalty for what Joe Biden has allegedly done, or Hunter Biden, or Hillary Clinton, or Jen Psaki, or any of them, Jim Comey, Adam Schiff, whoever? Why is there no penalty for them? But when she goes to the right, Donald Trump, all of a sudden they throwing the book at him. Whatever your thoughts are, let me know in the comments below. You guys know where I'm at. You have a two-tiered justice system. It's pretty plain as day. Nobody can really deny it. This is just further evidence of what I talk about all the time. But whatever your thoughts are, please let me know in the comments below. And that's all I got to say for this video. If you like what you heard, please comment, rate, share, and subscribe. Peace.